Roger Christopherson here again with another first listen review, and it's kind of more like a 200th listen review, I guess, but this is the new version I'm going to babble about today. Actually, two albums I'm going to babble about, but one in particular, it was one of these bands that really did it for me out of the thrash community, and it is Testament. And they have remastered their first two albums, The Legacy and The New Order. And man, there's a couple albums that could really have used that. That's these two. I remember when I was really starting to get into this style of music. For me, I know they always talk about the big four, but one of the big four for me would have been Testament, and I got The New Order. And I remember when I got that album, that album just blew my mind. I had never heard stuff like this. I mean, Metallica was the gateway. I had, read about them in all the magazines, and they weren't playing this on the radio where I lived. There was no radio station. There was no MTV or anything that I had. Of course, Metallica wasn't on MTV forever anyway. But so all you could do is read about these bands in all the magazines. And finally, I decided I got to go get these guys. And when I heard that, I was like, oh man, well, what's these other bands? And Testament just happens to be one of the ones that I grabbed first. And The New Order, when I got that album, I can't even tell you how many times I've listened to this thing. It was funny, when I heard this album was being remastered, in my head, I just started singing all the songs in my head from this album. And I just got done listening to this thing again, and man, I just love this album. So that being said, and of course then I went back and got The Legacy, and for a while, every album that came out with right after that all had similar production styles, although Souls of Black and Practice What You Preach all were probably a little bit better in the production, but I don't know what it was about The New Order, and I remember thinking it at the time. This is back before I really knew anything about anything when it came to production or whatever. I was still really young at this point in time. I remember just thinking, man, this has a weird sound to it. It has this really, and at the time I didn't know how to describe it, but it's got this really mid-tempo processed guitar sound. And even though it's not processed guitar, it really sounds that way. But so when I heard it was being remastered, I'm like, okay. I don't normally care for remasters, because sometimes I think when they do this, either they make it sound worse, or it just, I don't know, doesn't do anything for it. And after listening to this, I still have very mixed emotions about what I think about this. I can't make up my mind if I like it or I don't. The things that I like about it, or the drums, you can hear them now pretty well. There was times on the original recording where the snare just disappeared, it seemed like, in a few different areas. And it just got lost in the mid-range of all the guitar. So they found a way to beef that up, and the low end, the overall low end of the album is definitely there. Bass is a little bit more up front sounding now, because the remastering and boosting the low end overall kind of does that. And Chuck Billy's vocals just are still cutting through. I don't hear much of a difference there, vocally. The only thing is the guitars don't sound like anything changed, and that was my main thing with the original one, is how the guitars should just be more chunky, more full, and they should have more crunch. I always thought that. Both of these albums, I was listening to one of my favorite songs on there is Trial by Fire and Disciples of the Watch. Those are probably a couple of my favorites on The New Order. And I'm just listening for those crunchy, you can hear everything fine. I mean, the guitar, you can hear it, but it doesn't have that like it still should. So unfortunately, that kind of left me. That was the main thing I wanted to hear, maybe filled up a little bit and more full sounding, and it just isn't. So same thing with The Legacy. They both have the same sound to them or whatever as far as the guitar goes, but it does sound fuller. So I'm kind of teetering back and forth whether I like this or I just want to go back and listen to the original one again. But either way, it was definitely fun listening to. The Legacy I like. It's still cool, but I think The New Order for me was just one of those albums that's never gonna you know, just lose its place in my life to where it came in. It introduced me to thrash and made me want to hear more stuff. It's funny they do that Nobody's Fault on there, the cover song, but I actually prefer their own music better than the cover songs. That's one of those, you know, situations where the cover song maybe was meant to be like something to help promote it, and I just think it was the weakest song on the whole album. Their own stuff was better, and I just think that's, you know, just the case for that one. But anyway, not much more to say on this one, so if anybody else has anything they want to add, if you heard it, what do you think? I know they had Into the Pit, and there was one other song they had out there on YouTube or Spotify or something. I didn't actually listen to those, so I can't even remember what they said it was already released on. But now that I've got it and I've heard the whole thing, it's kind of what I think, so take a listen, tell me what you think of this, you know, both of these albums. I keep referring to the New Order because that was the one that did it for me, but there was the Legacy and the New Order were both released, so, you know, check them out, tell me what you think, tell everybody else here what you think, and you know, any cool Testament stories or how these guys impacted you, feel free to share that as well. And as always, like, share, and subscribe, keep this music alive, because these guys are still out there doing it. I want to hear some more stuff. I want to keep hearing stuff they release. I've actually gotten everything they've ever done. I really enjoy their stuff. They've taken a few detours here and there with their sound and gone a little bit heavier and then gone back to maybe this style on one of their more recent ones. But, you know, I'm going to keep buying the stuff, so why not? All right, talk to you guys later. We'll see you.